Hello and welcome everyone to the first video on this channel. Today we're gonna take a look at one of the most popularized dish in the world, Pad Thai. Originating from Thailand, the stir-fried rice noodle dish has now taken over the world and it can be very easy to find it wherever you are, although it can hardly beat the quality and deliciousness of those sold in the streets of Thailand. Stir-fried noodles were nothing new in Thailand. They existed for a very long time. The origins of rice noodles as we know them today date back to the Qing dynasty in China, and they were introduced in Thailand a few centuries ago. But the dish, known as Pad Thai, is actually a rather recent invention. It dates back to the 20th century. The one at the origin of Pad Thai is Plek Pibun Songkram, the Prime Minister of Thailand at the time. Back then, Thailand was still known as the Kingdom of Siam. The issue with Siam was that it was divided in several regions, all having their own separate identity and dialects. And thus, Pibun attempted to bring all the people together and push nationalism to the extreme in the country in an effort to keep himself in power, but also to improve cultural identity. To do so, he launched reforms that were intended to strengthen the national identity of the people and bring them as one. This was called the Thai Cultural Revolution. That's also when the country's name changed from Siam to Thailand. Anyway, the reason I'm talking about all this is because all these new reforms intended to modernize the country eventually popularized this new noodle dish that was intended to represent Thai people and encourage street food vendors to make it and sell it under that name. The 1930s were difficult times in Thailand. The economy wasn't doing so well and the need for a cheap but filling and nutritious meal was much needed. And that's when Pad Thai came in. Rice noodles were cheap but had a nice texture and were filling. When you mixed them with fresh bean sprouts and a protein, traditionally shrimps or prawns, then it made a delicious, cheap and filling dish. Since then, Pad Thai's popularity grew exponentially and now it's one of the most known and appreciated dish in the world. As I said earlier, you can practically find it anywhere. With time, people experimented a lot and now there are several variations of Pad Thais all having their own unique twists that makes them original. But the concept of the dish itself remains the same and is still appreciated in Thailand and all over the world. This concludes the first video on food history. If you enjoyed the content, please consider sharing and subscribing to the channel for even more videos like this. Now then, thanks everyone for watching and see you soon for a new video.